Hello and welcome to ABP Live. I have with me today Mr. Vardhan Shringla. He's the Chief Coordinator for G20 Summit in India, and also he's the former Foreign Secretary of India. Welcome to ABP Live, sir, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me on your show, Nainuma.
Thank you, sir. I know it's a very busy time for you. So to quickly start, my first question will be, for our common readers and viewers to understand that when they're feeling that this G20 summit is happening and India is at the world stage hosting this for the first time, the question that arises is what is it in it that is there for them? How will it, make India this global superpower that will help even the common man?
Well, take a very simple thing. 10 years ago, when you went to visited countries abroad, you were looked at differently than we would do today. Mm-hmm. And I think 10 years down the line or a few years down the line, it would be even more different. Mm-hmm. But I think that change is already there on us. And the Prime Minister the other day said, he said, whenever there are major events that take place in any country, it could be an Olympic game, it could be a major international event, those events are transformational in terms of their development and other, progression. And I think G20 in our country would also be transformational. This is the first time we've been president of the G20, but it's a difficult period. Mm-hmm. And India has taken on leadership of the world, the largest economies of the world at a time when we are seeing unprecedented global challenges.
Absolutely.
And we have, in many senses, contributed to providing solutions through the G20 to those challenges, given our own experience and our own, achievements. Mm-hmm. Take, for example, the fact that in our country, we've always followed a human-centric development model, mm-hmm. which means that, whether it is economic development, it is technology, it is infrastructure progression, these are always designed to ensure that every aspect of every part of our society is covered and it benefits the last man standing. Right. Mm-hmm. And that model today we're taking to the world. We're telling the world through the G20 that let us work for a human-centric globalization. Mm-hmm. Let us work for the global common good. Mm-hmm. India, through its own experiences, is happy to share these globally with our G20 partners. And today, partners, whether they're developed economies or emerging economies, are happy to work with us in that endeavor because they understand that in today's context, there is a need globally to provide that support. And at the same time, there's a greater receptivity among the developing countries whose potentials are now finally coming to the fore. And so that conjuncture is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Sir, and as you rightly said that the time that we got the presidency is the most difficult time that the world is, undergoing. And we know in the backdrop, there's a war going on. There are tensions between US and China. How difficult it has been for India to still have it organized and at such a mega scale?
Well, in some senses, we are uniquely positioned. We are regular invitees to the G7. Mm-hmm. We're members of the Quad. Okay. We're members of BRICS. We're members of SCO. We straddle that ideological space. Mm-hmm. We are the bridge between North and South and East and West. So from that point of view, we are uniquely placed in today's world of polarizations. These polarizations actually cut across the G20 to bring countries together in our formulation that we should unite in the concept of one earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a comprehensive philosophy based on our cultural ethos, which says that you must work together to achieve something for the future. So the world is one family. And that is the philosophy we bring to the G20. Mm-hmm. How can we work together for the global common good? So reduce the differences, reduce the conflicts, increase the cooperation and the collaborations to bring about successful conclusions of your processes, whether they're the SDG process, whether it is the climate change, combating climate change, whether it is in terms of reforming multilateral development, multilateral institutions, or in terms of empowering women, women-led development. There is an entire range of issues across the world that have to be today addressed. Can we work together to address those issues?
Mm-hmm. So now the question that arises is the fact that what everybody is talking about, that Chinese president is not coming, Russian president is not coming. Is that a setback for India? And also, will it have certain hurdles in stitching up a joint statement?
You heard our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, who said that in any international event, you don't have all the time full participation. I mean, there are always some leaders for their own reasons that cannot make it. I think we will have an excellent representation of world leaders for our G20 summit. We will have very good deliberations and discussions. We will have the desired outcomes. And every country has an interest in ensuring the success of the G20 process. And there is no doubt that the New Delhi G20 summit will be an exemplary, an impeccable and uniquely Indian summit.
And the fact that for the first time a Chinese president is not coming, do you think it is their loss?
I mean, I don't want to comment on what a country may perceive the situation to be, but as far as we are concerned, I think, it is a head of state, head of government meeting, and we will have participation at the level that we desire.
Okay. So now coming to the fact that the G20 is about economic agenda, although I know there's an overshadow of the war that is going on, but we need to also look at the economic development, and because of the war, the kind of economic impact it has had. So this G20 is historic even in that manner as well. What will be the main focus when it comes to the economic agenda?
Well, there is a big agenda out there, and I think one of the most important issues is how do you facilitate and how do you stimulate an accelerated, inclusive, sustainable growth? How do you ensure that the SDG process, the momentum is carried forward? And you've seen that at the foreign ministers level, they've agreed on a 7-year SDG plan. Over the next 7 years, how do we guide the SDG process to bring it to a certain level of fruition as planned? And also, how can we work with the international community to reform multilateral development banks, to strengthen their mandate, to provide them with resources that can contribute towards alleviating the indebtedness that you see in many developing countries, the need for climate finance, for example. So those are issues on the table. How do you provide an international governance structures for new systems and technologies like cryptocurrencies? How do you foster responsible artificial intelligence? How do you work on new concepts, a people-oriented concept that mitigate climate change? For example, lifestyle for sustainable development, sustainable consumption, a pro-planet people movement in that regard. So there is a lot of support for many of these ideas. How do you come up with new superfood in the form of millets and other ancient grains? So there are many proposals, which are important to the world today. The global challenges that we face and the solutions that are available to us have been discussed, and I think are part of the initiatives we have taken under our presidency, and no doubt these would see more discussion at the summit.
So then also, do you agree or do you think that in the summit, the leaders will agree to some far-reaching developments as far as taxation is concerned? Will that be easier for the world because economic development is needed?
So I cannot predetermine what the leaders will discuss and what they'll decide on. But obviously, the multinational taxation structure is something that has been discussed. And I think some progress has been made. And I think under our presidency, we are looking at progress in that area as well.
And we have also suggested, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she has suggested for this regulation on crypto. Do you think all the leaders will be agreeing on that?
As I mentioned, I think that is on the cards. This has been discussed in the finance track. You've seen that there was already a report submitted by the Financial Stability Board. We are now looking at a second report, which is a combined report of the IMF and the FSB. That will also take into account not just financial stability, but also macroeconomic stability. So a comprehensive report that can give us, a sort of a pathway towards global governance of cryptocurrencies is already under discussion.
Okay. And so my last question to you will be, of course, the focus will be on supply chains and how that needs to be strengthened amongst not just these 20 countries, but also beyond. So what will be the discussion as far as trade, connectivity and supply chains are concerned?
Well, I think the trade and investment ministers have already had a good discussion. The issue of resilient, sustainable supply chains has been a part of that conversation. We have been working, even outside of the G20 in that endeavor. and no doubt this is an important factor even in the G20. This undoubtedly will be, will also be discussed, and I think we have the basis, to look at how the world can be less vulnerable to shocks in the form of COVID or conflicts that impact on countries, especially developing countries. And the concerns of the global south are foremost in our minds.
Sir, and just one last thing to close. The next summit will be in Brazil. Do you think that we'll be able to give them a successful agenda to hand it over to them?
Well, we have brought in an unprecedented number of initiatives, and a lot of them would see fruition. A lot of them would also continue because they have to continue through several presidencies, and they continue to further, I would say, develop and reach a logical conclusion. And there is no doubt that we will be handing over the banner to Brazil in a manner that would provide a continuity. And we are confident that as we took the banner from Indonesia, we will also hand over to Brazil, and Brazil's presidency would be a very, very successful one.
Thank you so much, sir. That was Mr. Vardhan Shringla, Chief Coordinator for G20 and also the former Foreign Secretary of India. You were watching this interview on ABP Live. This is Nayanima Basu. With me on camera is Naman Mehra and Sanchit. Thank you.